Welcome back to the CBJ show. Today's episode, we'll be doing lots of discussions with mainly NBA offseason news, NFL playoff picture starting to shape up, Patriots Texan preview, and predictions at the end. Starting off with the NBA. The NBA draft happened on Wednesday, and teams made a lot of good selections. Some trades on draft night, we'll get to that later. But looking at the lottery, the Timberwolves took Anthony Edwards, number one, shooting guard out of Georgia. James Wiseman, center to the Warriors out of Memphis. LaMelo Ball, he's been in a family of basketball since he was a little kid with Lonzo Ball, LiAngelo Ball, and his father, LeVar Ball. They've been very popular. He's out of Chino Hills High School, and he played in the NBL Australian League. Patrick Williams, the Bulls took a reach here at number 4. He's out of Florida State, small forward. Isaac Okoro was drafted 5th overall to the Cavs out of Auburn. Onyeka Okongwu, drafted to the Hawks out of USC, who is a center. Killian Hayes to the Pistons, point guard. He's from France, but he did play a bit in the German league last season. Obi Toppin, power forward. He is headed off to New York to play for the Knicks out of Dayton. He played very well last year, and a lot of people thought he was the best player in college basketball. Denny Avdija, small forward out of Israel. He played for the Maccabi Tel Aviv club. He's going to the Wizards. Jalen Smith, power forward. He got drafted to Phoenix, and he is out of Maryland. Devin Vassell out of Florida State, shooting guard, headed to San Antonio. The Kings get another point guard, Tyrese Halliburton out of Iowa State. Kira Lewis Jr., another point guard, heading to the Pelicans alongside Lonzo Ball, and the team did make a few trades to get point guards. We'll get to that later. He's out of Alabama. And lastly, the Boston Celtics, they took Aaron Nesmith, small forward out of Vanderbilt. So I want to know everyone's thoughts on where the top 3 prospects ended up. I'm going to start with Cam. What are your thoughts on Anthony Edwards heading to Minnesota?
And I think Anthony Edwards is a big pick for them. We saw pretty much up until draft day that LaMelo Ball was a projected number 1, and then it changed like a few hours before the draft to Anthony Edwards. I think this is a great pick for them. He's a shooting guard out of Georgia, and I think he'll be able to impact that team there in Minnesota. He's a good shooter and should be a good pick for them down for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I would say that that's a good pick for them as well. I going into it, I think a lot of people thought LaMelo Ball was going number 1, but Minnesota and Golden State didn't necessarily need a point guard, and we see Melo Ball drop down to 3. But I think it's the right decision for both Minnesota and Golden State, as Golden State doesn't have a center. They've just lost their key pieces in the past couple of years, and then I think Anthony Edwards will help Minnesota going forward, as he'll just be great. And I love seeing the Israelis come play in the U.S. Later, we'll talk about the Celtics draft picks, but the Celtics draft is Israeli. But I think I like the Israelis. And Aaron Naismith, the pick for the Celtics, I think he'll be a good help, and we'll see what he can come. Want to hear your thoughts on the Celtics picks, and were they the right decisions, or could they have done anything better?
Yeah, I actually think they did a good job. You said Aaron Nesmith. I think he's very underrated. Celtics might have got one of the bigger steals of the draft. He's a great shooter. He shot 52% from 3 last year in college. I think I haven't seen the stats on that, at least ranked, but he's definitely in the top 5, no doubt about it. That is above NBA elite level of 3-point shooting. So the Celtics will love to have that next year. They got, I believe his name is Pritchard. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. He was, I believe, the 26th pick in the draft. I think he's out of Oregon, point guard. I think he's going to be a good fit with Celtics bench. I don't see him getting playing time this year. Celtics did let go of Brad Wanamaker, but I think they're going to bring in Carson Edwards to start at the backup point guard spot this year. But expect the Celtics draft picks to make some impact in the next few years.
Yeah, for sure. We saw some Celtics fans that wanted Cole Anthony, but I think that Neesmith was definitely the right pick there. We saw the Celtics needed a strong shooter, and Neesmith will be that guy. Hopefully, he did great at Vanderbilt, one of the leading shooters for the team there. And yeah, I think the Celtics made a good pick there, not the Patriots. My bad, wrong team there. But yeah, we saw with Hayward opting out of his contract, Neesmith will be a good replacement, good shooter for him for the Celtics there. And yeah, I definitely think they made the right pick.
All right, now we're going to move on to some of the trades that have happened or some rumors. First off is probably the biggest rumor going around the NBA, and it is surrounding the Houston Rockets. Their top two players, James Harden and Russell Westbrook, want out of Houston. James Harden has said that he wants to go to Brooklyn. Want to know your guys' thoughts on if you think James Harden will eventually get traded, or if the Nets get him, are they winning the finals? And if not, what's going to go on with James Harden? Is he going to get mad or something? I don't really know. Start with Brandon on this one.
I would say that this is just crazy because James Harden was declining a contract that would make him $15 million, one of the most paid in the NBA. But politics have come into play with the coach. He's a Trump supporter, and Harden just doesn't want to be there. So it's just surprising to see a big player declining that huge contract. But I think he'll make an impact in Brooklyn if he joins Kyrie and Kevin Durant, the big three in Brooklyn. It's definitely a winning team. I wouldn't say they're necessarily a championship team with those three, but they're going to make a deep run.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you guys. I do not think that he will end up staying in Houston. We saw him opt out. He didn't want that huge $50 million contract, which I think definitely means that he wants out. And I definitely think the favorite where he's going to will be Brooklyn. But they have, we saw they had Kyrie and Kevin Durant, but I think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're a championship team. I don't think that Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and Harden would all be able to coexist in the same team. They're all powerful players. They're all big players, and all used to being like one of the top players on the team. And I just don't think that all three of those guys will be able to coexist together and create a good unity together. I think they might be able to, but I just don't think it's gonna be hard for them to be able to play together. And since they're all dominant players and they're used to being number one with their team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Kevin Durant and James Harden are, in my opinion, the top two scorers of this generation. They've had some stats between like 28 and 34 points most seasons. And with Kyrie Irving in there, I'm not saying that he's bad, but from what I've seen of him in his career, he's not really a team player. He's more of an eye player. And that's not really how you want to play. And I feel like Kyrie Irving's going to demand the ball a bit more than James Harden and Kevin Durant. Um, when Harden Durant should be getting the ball. But I'm hoping that that team can maybe put it together. That would be a really entertaining team to watch and win the finals. But James Harden going to Brooklyn, that would be a massive W for Brooklyn and Steve Nash as the coach. So I think that they're making a championship run. I think NBA Finals, they might lose to the Lakers, but that team would have a bright future for sure. And moving on, a big trade happened earlier this week. The Thunder traded their All-Star point guard, future Hall of Fame point guard, Chris Paul, to the Phoenix Suns. Abdul Nader was also traded to the Suns. The Thunder got back Kelly Oubre, who was actually later traded to the Warriors for a first-round pick, Ricky Rubio, who was traded to the Timberwolves for the 17th pick in this year's draft, and a future second-round pick, Ty Jerome, Jalen Leck, and a 2022 first-round pick. So do you think the Suns are going to make the playoffs this year with the addition of Chris Paul alongside Devin Booker, who played amazing in the bubble? That team went 8-0 in the Orlando bubble before getting sent home. And they also have DeAndre and a young center. Cam, what are your thoughts on Chris Paul heading to Phoenix?
Yeah, I think that's a good pickup for the Suns there. And I think they do have a good chance of making the playoffs this year. We saw them in the bubble. They went 8-0. We were all surprised that they didn't actually end up making the tournament. Devin Booker played very well there, and if he can continue to be playing that well, the Suns will definitely make the playoffs. And yes, I definitely think they could be a contender there. It's going to be tough in the West there, but without 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 the big names there, saw if Houston there, if he's not in the West anymore, it might be tough for them to be playoff contenders. But yeah, with this trade, this really will help the Phoenix Suns, and they definitely could be playoff contenders and even go far in the playoffs if they get a good chance the way they played in the bubble this year.
I'd have to agree with that, Cam. Uh, we saw, as Cam mentioned, the Suns went 8-0 in the bubble, and that shocked probably a lot of people. And adding Chris Paul is just gonna help Devin Booker and the Suns. And I think this Phoenix Suns team is a team that's rebuilding, and I think they're almost at the pace that they're gonna make the playoffs soon, and I think they can just do it. We have another trade, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Oklahoma Thunder. The Lakers have received Dennis Schroeder, and the Thunder have received Danny Green in the 20th pick in the 2020 draft. I'm going to start with Cam. Your thoughts on this? Who wins this trade, and was it smart to trade Schroeder to the Thunder?
Schroeder's a great player, but I think some of this trade ends up coming down to salary cap and wanting to dump some salary there. Thunder get Danny Green, and that'll help them a lot there. He's a good shooter and a good player, but Dennis Schroeder, he's a great defensive player, and I think he'll be great for the Lakers. He will be competing for playing time there with LeBron and Davis and a bunch of other studs there. But yeah, I think it's a good trade, and I think it just comes down to salary cap and Thunder possibly not wanting to pay Shooter as much as he wanted to get paid.
Yeah, I think personally the Lakers did win that trade back in Syria coming from with about the salary cap dump. I'm also hearing Danny Green is getting immediately flipped from OKC to Philadelphia, possibly in a trade with Al Horford. But Al Horford would also be a good addition to that Thunder team. And looking at the Lakers, Dennis Schroeder, he was a candidate for Sixth Man of the Year last year. He was at close to 20 points per game behind Chris Paul. So I think the Lakers took a massive win on this one. They finally get the point guard that LeBron needs. LeBron does not need to play point guard anymore. So looking at a lineup with LeBron, AD, Dennis Schroeder, and they also signed another great big man that we'll talk about in our free agency topic. And yeah, I think the Lakers did win the trade, but the Thunder did take a win with dumping the salary cap. But Al Horford bringing on that contract, maybe not so good. But I think overall the Lakers did find their franchise point guard with LeBron and Anthony Davis. Next up, moving on to the final trade that we'll be discussing. It was between the Bucks and the Pelicans. There were a lot of trades with the players that got traded in this deal to other teams. So in this trade, the Bucks got Drew Holiday in the 60th pick in the 2020 draft, which is Sam Morril, and the Pelicans got Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, who got traded to OKC in a huge deal that sent Steven Adams, one of the better centers in the league, to New Orleans. The 24th pick in the 2020 draft, which was RJ Hampton, 2024 first round pick swap, 2025 first round pick, 2026 first round pick swap, and a 2027 first round pick. So, want to know who wins the trade? Does Drew Holiday change the decision of Giannis in 2021 free agency, whether he signs a Supermax extension before December with Milwaukee or not? Did Milwaukee overpay? And what are the veteran presences of Eric Bledsoe? What does that presence bring to a young and talented Pelicans team? Start with Brandon here.
Yeah, I think first off, this is a massive trade. Just want to get that out. And we're seeing so many players just this week bouncing around to so many different teams, and I think we'll have more to come as our next couple episodes will include this. But this is just my first reaction is just kind of wow, because there's a lot to process with all these players going to different teams, multiple teams involved, multiple picks involved, and I first would just say that Pelicans receiving Steven Adams is going to be huge for them. They already have um, Zion Williamson, who is tall, but having that uh, big play, Steven Adams, I think that'll help them. And I wonder if that reduces Zion's playing time next year. But it's just, I think, big for them because they needed someone good and they didn't have the pieces when Anthony Davis went to the Lakers. So that was their missing piece. And I think one of their missing pieces was a good center like Steven Adams. And you can put Zion Williamson at the power forward. The Bucks getting Drew Holiday, I think, may have a small impact on Giannis, but Giannis is such a great player that it's not going to really impact as much. But I think this is just surprising for them to take Drew Holiday as they're looking for maybe another option for Giannis, and maybe we see Giannis leave in a few years. So, Cam, your thoughts?
Yeah, I know Drew Holiday definitely could impact Giannis's decision, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's really gonna matter that much. Like you said, Giannis is a great player, and I think it's gonna come down to how much does Giannis think he deserves to get paid, and if the Bucks don't want to give him that, then he's gonna leave and go somewhere else. But if the Bucks are willing to give him what he wants to get paid, and Giannis is willing to stay, then yeah, I think Holiday and Giannis might be a good duo together. And the Bucks have been a great team in the past, and I think Joe Holiday will definitely help the Bucks. And even if Giannis does decide to leave, the Bucks did a good job of bringing in a good player there to not replace Giannis, but fill in that gap a little bit. Drew Holiday is no Giannis, but yeah, I think this could be a good duo together, or it could be a little fill in the gap for the Bucks there if Giannis does decide to leave.
Yeah, I think with this trade, the Bucks are kind of going all in this year because they're giving up Eric Bledsoe, who was a good fit on that team, a great defensive point guard. George Hill, a great backup point guard. He led the league in the 3-point percentage for a few months last year. But trading 3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps along with Bledsoe and Hill just for Drew Holiday, that means that the Pelicans, they're getting a lot here. And looking at the Bucks, if they don't win it this year and Giannis leaves, they kind of made that trade for nothing because Drew Holiday is a veteran player. He shouldn't really be part of any team's futures unless it is to win now. He shouldn't be part of young teams. But I think that the Bucks have more moves to make, and I think they're going to go all in this year to try to keep Giannis around in Milwaukee. Moving on, free agency. Big news last night. I mean, it's not as big as last year's free agency with KD, Kyrie, Kawhi, Kemba, Klay Thompson, etc. But 2020 NBA Sixth Man of the Year of the Clippers, Montrezl Harrell, is now staying in the same city of Los Angeles and heading to the Lakers to complete a front court with Anthony Davis. Cam, your thoughts on Montrezl Harrell going to the Lakers?
Yeah, I mean the Lakers, they're really selling out now, with LeBron and AD and the other guys, and bringing in Dennis Schroeder. Lakers really gonna have a stacked lineup there. But it's definitely gonna be tight for playing time in LA now, that's for sure. But this is a good signing, and I think the Lakers are really trying to prove themselves as one of the best teams in the league this year, as they won it last year. Who knows, with all this talent now, they very well could go back to back and win another championship this year. So I think they're definitely going to be the favorite to win it again when the season officially starts and kicks off.
I would have to agree. I think there's so much good talent in LA with the Lakers, and they're just probably one of the best teams. Like Cam said, they may go back to back. We had a few other trades that was not mentioned earlier. Al Horford was traded to Oklahoma City Thunder. Steven Adams mentioned to New Orleans. Seth Curry is getting traded to Philadelphia, and Landry Shamet to Brooklyn. Quickly before we go in deep into free agency, your two thoughts on these and who's good.
Yeah, one more topic before we move on to our big NFL discussions. Um, Gordon Hayward has opted out of his $34 million player option with the Celtics. A bit surprising, in my opinion, because Hayward, when he signed back in 2017, he was looked at as an all star player. He has shown that he is signs of his all star form once again, averaging about 17, 18 points as the fourth option on the Celtics, which is very impressive. But he wants out, and I know the Pacers are rumored to try to go for Gordon Hayward, and the Celtics have been talking all offseason about getting Miles Turner, the Pacers center. The Celtics have not had a good center in a while. I'm not saying Daniel Tice is horrible, but Miles Turner is on another level than Daniel Tice. So start with Brandon. What are your thoughts on Gordon Hayward not wanting to return to Boston, and what does this mean? Maybe a sign and trade for Miles Turner?
As a Celtics fan, sad to see Hayward leave. We also saw Cantor and Poirier leave as well in trades, but I think Hayward's big because when he came back from the injury, he was able to help the Celtics team uh, kind of move closer to the NBA Finals. They unfortunately lost to Miami, but I think losing Hayward is going to be big, and if the Celtics want to improve, getting Miles Turner would definitely be big. Cam, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I do not think this was a smart decision for Hayward on his salary because the Celtics were paying him a lot of money, and I just don't think he's going to get that much money in with the Pacers if he ends up going to the Pacers. He had a high contract here, and I think he's not worth as much as he thinks he is anymore. But for Hayward, his hometown's Indiana. If he goes to the Pacers, that could be one of the reasons he wants to play for his hometown. He's from Indianapolis. Yeah, and if the Celtics can get Miles Turner, like you said, Tice isn't a bad player, but like he's their really only big guy on the team. He's Miles Turner would help them. They get another big guy and another good center there that can stay under the hoop and get those easy baskets right under the hoop. So yeah, Miles Turner would definitely help the Celtics out. Now, as we see, Hayward hasn't really played much for the Celtics. He's been hurt most of the time he's been with us. So I think if they're able to get Turner, even a rumor could be Oladipo or something like that. That could be significantly impact the Celtics and help them out a lot.
All right, we're gonna pause on our NBA thoughts and move on to the NFL. Just gonna give a quick brief of the playoff picture. You can go on ESPN or anything. We know the Steelers still undefeated. Chiefs are 8-1. Bills top of the AFC East at 7-3. Colts are the leaders in the AFC South at 6-3. Here's a little surprise of teams that did not make playoffs. Two teams did not make playoffs last year. Raiders and the Dolphins both tied 6-3, and they are the fifth and sixth spots. The Ravens, with their loss to the Patriots on Sunday night last week, have dropped to seventh, and that is the AFC playoff picture. And eighth and ninth is the Browns and Titans, both at 6-3. So to recap, teams 4 through 9 all are 6-3, and it's such a tight race in the AFC. In the NFC, it's a little bit tighter. Packers and Saints top of the NFC East at 7-2. Seahawks have played one more game than both of these teams, and they are 7-3. Eagles are 3-5 atop the NFC East, one of the worst divisions, and the that finishes the NFC East leaders. Buccaneers 7-3 are in fifth place. The Rams 6-3 are in sixth place. Cardinals 6-4 are in seventh place. So it is much tighter in the NFC East NFC than the AFC. And eighth and ninth, we have the Bears at 5-5, Vikings at 4-5. It's a tight race, and with less than half of the season to go, it's anyone's game. I want to let you know some Pats Texans preview just so you can think about this. If the Pats win, they'll be back to 500 since week 4. The Texans are 2-7. They've only beaten Jacksonville. They're hoping for a comeback against the Pats. This will be the first time we see Cam Newton versus Deshaun Watson, as Deshaun Watson was drafted a few years ago from the Texans, and Kim has been on the Panthers since last year. If you remember a few months ago, we talked about Bill O'Brien getting fired. Romeo Crennel, the former Patriots coach, is now the interim head coach for the Texans. J.C. Jackson has 6 interceptions on the year, 5 in the row. Last 5 games, he has 1 interception. Wonder if he'll get 6 in a row. And then lastly, we talked about DeAndre Hopkins going to Arizona, and he made an incredible catch last week. If you've yet to see that, go and check that out. And the Texans D, we cannot forget, is led by J.J. Watt. He only has 4 sacks this year, but 2 weeks ago, he registered his 100th career sack in a game against the Browns. He is the 5th fastest player, 200 sacks. Congrats, man. And I'm going to hand it off to Cam and Jason for their thoughts on predictions.
Yeah, going back to the playoff prediction, you said the NFC is really tighter than AFC, but some people could disagree with that. There is 5 teams that are all 6 teams that are all 6-3 in the AFC East. In the AFC, there is so much room for there. All those teams are tied. There could be some flip flops going on there. We talked about the Dolphins being a bad team this year. They're actually pretty good. They have, I'd say, one of the top defenses in the league this year so far. They've had punt return touchdown, block kicks. Been standing up. Their defense is looking pretty good. Like I said, the Colts are ahead of the Ravens right now. Ravens are the last wild card team, but the AFC is pretty tight. I definitely think that Cleveland will fall down, and possibly the Raiders could, but the Titans have definitely dropped off. But the AFC is definitely pretty tight. There's 6 teams there with all tied with the same exact record. And that's for the NFC. We see the power NFC West has got 3 out of their 4 teams in the playoffs right now, with the Rams, Cardinals, and Seahawks. It's a huge win for the Seahawks on Thursday night against the Cardinals. They really need to win that to get back to where they were. And with the Saints, they're 7-2 right now, but without Drew Brees and without Winston this week, we'll see what they can do. But yeah, I think right now the AFC is definitely tighter than the NFC with all those 6-3 teams there. And we see the last wildcard team is the Cardinals right now in the West at 6-4. And then right behind them is the Bears at 5-5 and the Vikings at 4-5. So, the NFC is tight within the playoffs, but the AFC is tighter within the playoffs and the 2 spots out of the playoffs right now. If Jason, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the AFC is going to be a little more interesting to see it play out with all those teams being 6-3, seeds 4 through 9. I'm also looking at the Patriots maybe coming up, replacing maybe the Browns, Raiders, Titans, possibly, like you said, Kim. And NFC, they have 3 really good divisions this year, record wise. Obviously, the worst one would be the NFC East. NFC South has been fine with the Saints and Bucks leading it there. Falcons and Panthers are doing okay, but not great. But 2 divisions I'm looking at, the NFC North, the Packers are atop there, and then the Bears, Vikings, and Lions are all like 1 or 2 games out of the playoff picture. And then, of course, the best division in football with the NFC West, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals all have playoff spots. 49ers are a little bit out of the playoff picture. But I think the AFC is going to be more interesting but the NFC is going to be really interesting to see. If the Seahawks fall one game down, the Cardinals and Rams could immediately jump up to like number 1 or 2 because they would be the division leader. And it's going to affect teams, especially the Eagles are 3-5-1. They're the 4 seed. And we have teams outside the playoffs that are better than them. So it will be interesting to see. And yeah, my past prediction this week is 26-21 Patriots. Now hand it off to Brandon.
I'm gonna go for a little bit of a tighter game. 24-17 Patriots. I think the Texans. This game isn't Houston. To just remind everyone, Texans. They've only won 2 games, but they're better than their record shows. Just like the Patriots. These are 2 good teams that have talent. The Texans, they've lost DeAndre Hopkins, which is big, but they still have Cooks. They still have Will Fuller, and unfortunately, David Johnson's out for them. But they still have the talent. So I'm going to go 24-17. And I think Cam Newton is going to get back into his rhythm. He's had 2 weeks with no turnovers, and I think that trend continues. And not only will he have a rushing touchdown, he'll get a passing touchdown.
Yeah, no, I have the Pats winning 27-18. No, this game isn't Houston, but home field doesn't really matter as much anymore as there are no fans. I think this will be a good tight game there, but I think the Patriots will pull away. Like you said, I think Cam Newton will have a good game. He's starting to bounce back and feel the rhythm after that big win against the Ravens there. Yeah, and I think the Pats are able to get back to 500 there and get to 5-5 as I send them back to Brandon.
Yeah, I have to agree. The Pats can definitely get back up to 500 with a 5-5 record. I think this is Cam Newton's game to prove himself that he can be the future quarterback of the Patriots. If obviously without Tom Brady, Patriots still looking for a quarterback for the next decade or so. If Jarrett Stidham isn't the answer, they need Cam Newton here, and Cam Newton, this is his game to prove himself. And Patriots, nobody really thought that they would be here, but Cam Newton's playing some great football, some of the best in, say, the past 2-3 years. After his MVP season, wasn't really the same. But yeah, I think big day for the Patriots. Cam Newton, Damian Harris has had some great games, and Julian Edelman could be coming off IR soon.
Lots to look forward to for Patriots wise, as Edelman's coming back soon. Sony Michel will hopefully be back soon. So lots of things to look forward to as a Patriots fan.
And
But
Gilmore's hopefully going to be back this week for the Patriots defense. So that will be huge for the Patriots if they can get that NFL Defensive Player of the Year last year, Stephon Gilmore.
thanks for the reminder, Cam. Yes, Stephon Gilmore returned to practice yesterday. He will probably play a little bit, limited minutes this weekend, but he'll be back to full strength. The Revolution, the other team that plays at Gillette, they won in dramatic fashion, 2-1 win over Montreal, 95th minute. Gustavo Bo scored the goal. It was on second top play, top 10 Sports Center. The number 2 play was Gustavo Bo's goal. Great way to start the playoffs, and head coaches for both teams, legends, Bruce Arena, Thierry Henry. It could have gone either way. Both teams had great players, but it was the Revs that just had the breakthrough at the end. Don't want to go into too much details. If you want to learn more about this game, you can head over to revolutionsoccer.net, post a lot of stuff, or you can check out my channel, a little plug, BPYT, where you can watch all the Revs updates. And I can't do a little plug without shouting out Jason. Check out his channel, subscribe to both of ours. His is JGYT. So there you have it. And hope you're listening on Spotify, Instagram, or YouTube. And that's going to do it for episode 13. Final words?
See you later.
All right. Awesome. We're out here. Peace.